Good evening to the Durham District School Board's meeting of Monday, October 16th. This meeting is called to order. To give the land acknowledgement is to honor the First Nations and Indigenous people who have lived and worked on this land historically and presently. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, and as a settler on this land, I give this land acknowledgement. The Durham District School Board acknowledges that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which our school boards and schools are located. Today, this area is home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that the Durham region forms a part of the traditional and treaty territories of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Mississaugas peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. It is on these ancestral and treaty lands that we teach, learn, and live. The next item is O Canada. Please stand if you're able for O Canada. Thank you.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. Carton brasse porte le pays, il se porte la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, there are no statements of declaration at this time. Before we begin to adopt the agenda, I'd like to note that we have that we do have a code of conduct for public meetings in place that is intended to ensure a safe and respectful environment for everyone in attendance. It encompasses our previous approaches to public attendance at meetings, but puts it in writing to make expectations and consequences clear for all. It is my hope that we have a successful and respectful meeting this evening. The code of conduct will be displayed at each public meeting and is available on our website. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as provided? Trustee Arsenault, Trustee Brown, all those in favor? Opposed? That the agenda is adopted as distributed. Moving on to item 5, of which is the minutes. We have 4 sets of minutes there. May I have a motion that the minutes of the regular board meetings of June 19th, 2023, and the special board meeting of July 10th, 2023 be received, and that the draft minutes of the regular board meeting of September 18th, 2023 be approved. Trustee Morton, Vice Chair Thatcher, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. On to the next item was Ministry Memorandums. I'm going to pass it over to Director Camille Williams-Taylor.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I'm pleased to provide my update for the community and the board tonight. Good evening and welcome. I'd like to begin this update by acknowledging the devastation in the Middle East. When geopolitical conflicts and situations of violence occur, the impact is traumatic for many students, families, educators, and communities, both globally and locally. Communications and resources have been shared with our schools, staff, and families on how to support students and staff who may be directly or indirectly connected to the Middle East and Israeli, Palestinian, Jewish, and Muslim communities who are coping with distress arising from these incidents. As the situation continues to evolve, so too will our models of support for those in the Durham District School Board community. Tomorrow is Early Childhood Educator and Child Care Worker Appreciation Day. We recognize and appreciate the valuable contributions of child care workers and early childhood educators across our schools in classrooms and child care centers and the impact they have on children, families, and communities. Thank you to the early learning and child care heroes that make a difference in the Durham District School Board each day. Today is the beginning of Local Government Week. In partnership with the Ontario Public School Boards Association, school boards across the province will participate in events and classroom-based learning that aim to raise civic awareness among students, emphasizing the vital roles that government plays in our community, including through elected officials like school board trustees. Later this week, the DDSB will host its first Black Student Alliance Conference here at the Education Center for student leaders who are interested in networking with other Black student alliances across the district. This conference aims to create an empowering space for Black student leaders where they can gain skills to amplify their voice, vision, and agency with their local school communities. Students will have the opportunities for district-wide peer networking, school-related action planning, reflecting on their own wellness, and accessing wellness supports through an identity-based lens. On October 24th, DDSB's annual Volunteer of Distinction ceremony will take place. 2023 marks the return to an in-person event, and we are proud to recognize the contributions of 116 individuals to their local school communities. Each year, all schools are encouraged to nominate one volunteer member of their community who has demonstrated a commitment to the school through their active involvement in programs and initiatives towards the betterment of the school for students, staff, and families. We're grateful for the work of volunteers across the district and for their efforts to ensure schools are welcoming places for all students, staff, and families. Across Ontario, Dress Purple Day is taking place on October 27th. As a part of the campaign led by Ontario's Children's Aid Societies, we encourage everyone in the DDSB community to wear purple to help raise awareness about the important role that individuals and communities play in supporting vulnerable children, youth, and families. On November the 1st, Take Our Kids to Work Day is coming up, and grade 9 students will have the opportunity to spend a day in the life of a working professional. Students will be hosted by parents, relatives, or friends in a variety of workplaces, including here at the Education Center, where staff will spend time with students, sharing career pathways, stories, to assist them in exploring career-related activities and ideas for their futures. Grade 9 students and families interested in participating or finding out more information about Take Our Kids to Work Day are encouraged to contact their school office or guidance staff. Lastly, fall administration of the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test, the OSSLT, for students in grade 10 is coming up in November at all DDSB secondary schools. All students must work towards the literacy graduation requirement by participating in the OSSLT or by completing the Ontario Secondary School Literacy course. Schools will communicate detailed information about literacy test dates and supports available in the coming weeks. Thank you, Chair. That concludes my updates for this evening.
Thank you. We are now moving on to our public question period, which is item 8 on the agenda. Each question being asked this evening will be displayed on screen along with the responses from staff. Questioners are reminded to ask only their approved question. We have allocated up to 30 minutes for the public question period, although I don't think it'll take that long tonight because I think we only have 3. And with all approved questions along with their corresponding answers from the staff will be posted on the DDSB website following the this meeting. All questions submitted for public question period will be shared with the trustees following the meeting. I would like to first invite Dylan Reynolds to ask his question, and Dylan's joining us virtually.
Good evening, everybody. My question tonight is about the high enrollments across Pickering. The enrollments at multiple schools have increased a lot from the 2022-2023 school year, where we were in the year before. For example, Dunbar High School has an enrollment of around 1,500 students, while the enrollment at Pine Ridge is around 1,000 students. So I'm wondering, when will we eventually get a new high school built in the west end of Pickering?
Thank you, Dylan. I will ask Associate Director David Wright to answer the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Good evening, Dylan. Thanks for the question. The enrollment at both of the high schools that you've mentioned, Pickering and Dunbarton, is indeed increasing, but neither school is projected to be at 100% of their capacity until at least 2028. Both schools would need to be full before the Ministry of Education would support a business case to build a new secondary school in the area, and so any new construction would come after that time. So not for a number of years yet.
Well, I want to say I will see you guys around December 4th of 2023, which will be the next board meeting.
Thank you, Dylan. It's always a pleasure to have your questions. I'm going to move on to the next question. I will now ask Executive Lead Robert Surjanic to read the question submitted by Tim Morgan.
Thank you. Through the chair, the question is, why is anti-Christian discrimination / hate not mentioned in section 3.78 of the Human Rights Inclusive Design and Accommodation Procedure, while other faith groups such as Buddhist, Hindu, and Sikh are mentioned? We'll turn that over to Superintendent Davis to respond.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The DDSB's Human Rights, Anti-Discrimination and Anti-Racism Policy and the Human Rights Inclusive Design and Accommodation cover all forms of discrimination under the Ontario Human Rights Code, including all forms of religious discrimination and hate. Section 3.78 of the procedure gives a few illustrative examples of different types of religious discrimination or faithism, and in the full context of other content within that specific section. The section does not list every faith group. It also specifically states that it is not limited to only those faith groups that are listed. So Statistics Canada released its report on 2021 hate crimes in August 2022, and the Durham District School Board policies and procedures were approved before that in May 2022. The Durham District School Board procedure was informed by other available data, including experiences shared by community members during the policy and procedures development and consultation process. They were also guided by the Ontario Human Rights Commission's policy on preventing discrimination based on creed. So to be very clear, the DDSB's policy and procedure include and address all forms of religious discrimination.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. I'm going to ask Executive Lead Robert Surjanic to read the question submitted by Susan Fans.
Thank you. Through the chair, why does the DDSB's Human Rights, Anti-Discrimination, Anti-Racism policy include language that some people may view as discriminatory, for example, the term white supremacy? We'll turn that over to Superintendent Lazarus to respond.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. We recognize the importance of describing what certain terms mean so that we have a common understanding. The Human Rights, Anti-Discrimination, Anti-Racism policy includes a definition of white supremacy to explain how it is used in the context of the policy. In the policy, white supremacy is defined as a racist ideology based on the belief that white identity is the norm, standard, and ideal. It does not refer to extreme hate groups. It is not about good or bad people. It's about the accumulation of social, cultural, and institutional power that has and continues to advantage a group of people. The term is used to examine and better understand issues related to racism. The policy acknowledges that systemic discrimination and racism exist in our learning and working environments. It also sets out clear commitment to identifying, preventing, and addressing all forms of discrimination and racism in our schools and workplaces. This includes taking steps to name, challenge, and dismantle white supremacy and other discriminatory beliefs and practices in DDSB services and employment.
Thank you, Superintendent Lazarus. It concludes the public question periods, and so we'll now move on to item 9 on the agenda, which is a report from the Committee of the Whole in camera. I will ask Vice Chair Thatcher to provide the report.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The Committee of the Whole met in closed session on October 16th, 2023, and discussed matters involving the disclosure of intimate personal or financial information in respect of a member of the board or committee, an employee or prospective employee of the board, or a pupil or his or her parent or guardian, and the acquisition or disposal of a school site. Chair Edwards, this is my report. I move that the board approve the actions and adopt any resolutions of the October 16th, 2023 Committee of the Whole closed session meeting.
I have a motion on the floor. Can I have a seconder? Trustee Oldfield. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to the good news of the system, I'll ask Director Camille Williams-Taylor.
And through you, Chair, I'll turn it to our comms team to press play.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of DDSB students and staff, we are happy to bring you good news from across the system.
On Friday, September 29th, we encouraged all students and staff to wear orange to recognize the importance and understand the lasting impacts and current realities that continue to impact Indigenous students and families. Each year, September 30th, marks the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. We wear orange to honor the survivors of residential schools and those who never returned home.
During September, schools throughout the DDSB participated in the Terry Fox Run by raising funds and walking or running for the Terry Fox Foundation. DDSB students and staff celebrated Terry's memory and mission by raising funds and participating in walks throughout local neighborhoods. Thank you to all those who participated and donated. Together, we can send messages of hope and inspiration to all Canadians.
September 25th is officially celebrated as Franco-Ontarian Day. In 1986, the provincial government passed the French Language Services Act, which made French an official language of province's education system. Students recognized the cultural, historical, and social contributions of Francophones in the province through classroom learning and raising the Franco-Ontarian flag.
Schools are buzzing with excitement as students enthusiastically engage in a wide array of sports and extracurricular activities, from the adrenaline-pumping soccer matches that showcase their athletic prowess to the mesmerizing dance performances that captivate audiences. Students are constantly pushing their boundaries. Our schools across the district provide a vibrant platform for students to explore their passions and develop well-rounded skills.
Congratulations to the many DDSB schools, including Julie Pyatt, Claremont, Cataraqui, and Norman G. Powers Public School students and staff, as they organized food drives to help the community members in need. Donations raised went to support local initiatives such as Feed the Need Durham and the Garden Club to rejuvenate their front school gardens.
The DDSB congratulates Jessica and Akshita from O'Neill CVI on their out-of-this-world work in the 2023 Astro Pie Challenge. Their innovative experiment has been successfully launched on the International Space Station. The Astro Pie Challenge, in partnership with the European Space Agency and Raspberry Pi Foundation, provides students with the opportunity to run scientific experiments on board with the space station. Well done, Jessica and Akshita.
Schools across the district held their Meet the Teacher Night to give parents and guardians an opportunity to meet their child's teachers. Many schools also held a barbecue to give parents and guardians coming from work a chance to relax and get to know the school, staff, and other families while sharing a meal.
The dates of significance, as you can see, take us to the next board meeting.
Thank you to Khalid and Justin from Romeo Dallaire Public School for reading this month's good news.
It is indeed some great things that are happening in our schools. Moving on to item 11, which are presentations. The first item, A, is our Educational Services Staff Award. And what I would like to do is give you a little bit of the history about the award. In that, in June of 2013, the board meeting, the board approved the establishment of an annual Education Service Staff Award. This award is to recognize a staff member, a team affiliated with CUPE, consisting of office, clerical, technical staff, custodial and maintenance staff, and educational assistants. These staff support the safe operations of our schools, they keep our schools clean and systems operating, and they provide program support to teachers and students. The award provides the board with the opportunity to recognize an educational services staff member who had made an exceptional contribution to the support of students, schools, or the growth of others in the board. In addition to the recognition of winning the annual Education Service Staff Award, each recipient receives $500 toward a project or initiative of their choice. The committee consists of the chair of the board, the vice chair of the board, Christine Thatcher, Denise Gibbs, president of CUPE Local 218, and Heather Monday, superintendent of the Equitable Education for People and Culture, reviewed the nominations and have selected Karen Pender, educational assistant at Lakewoods Public School, as the recipient for the 2022-2023 year.
We'd like to congratulate Karen Pender as the recipient of this award. In her role as educational assistant at Lakewoods Public School in Oshawa, Karen is described by her colleagues as an outstanding educator and team member whose caring nature and hard work have had a significant positive impact on the school community. During her time at Lakewoods Public School, Karen has provided support in a variety of classroom settings, always putting the needs of each individual student at the forefront, demonstrating care and compassion while maintaining high expectations for manners, academic effort, and future goals. Outside of the classroom, Karen is an integral part of the school community through her work organizing and managing the school breakfast and snack program, making sure to greet students and to get to know each of them. In her spare time, not sure how she finds any, but in her spare time, she volunteers as a Sunday school teacher, and this year will be coordinating a week-long program for kids. Karen is an active member of the Durham Black Educators Network, DBEN, helping Black students and families navigate the school system, find useful resources, and bring awareness to workshops that are relevant to the Black community. Thank you, Karen, for all that you do for our students, and their families every day. It is my honor to present you with the very well-deserved Durham District School Board Educational Services Staff Award. As part of this award, Karen has selected the Lakewoods Public School Breakfast Program to be the recipient of the $500 program support, which continues to support Lakewoods students in need every day. Thank you, Karen, and congratulations once again.
The next presentation is the Ontario Public School Board Association Achievement Award, and I will ask Trustee Oldfield to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I'm thrilled to welcome Frank Liu, lead custodian at Greenbank Public School, to the Education Center this evening. On behalf of the entire Durham District School Board, we extend our sincerest congratulations to Frank on being the 2023 DDSB recipient of the Ontario Public School Boards Association's Award of Excellence and Achievement. Each year, OBSPA's Award of Excellence and Achievement is presented to members of school communities for their outstanding, exemplary, and unique contributions to the overall well-being of the school or community through in-school, board-wide, extracurricular, and/or volunteer activity. Frank arrives to work each day dedicated and committed to making sure all students, staff, and families feel welcome and at home. His contributions to the Greenbank Public School community over the past 12 years have been impactful, making him an incredibly worthy recipient of this award. Frank's exceptional work ethic has also been felt at the R.H. Cornish Public School and Port Perry High School communities. Congratulations, Frank, and thank you for joining us tonight to receive your award.
Okay, moving on to item 12 of recommended actions. We have the report and adoption of any resolutions from a standing committee meeting. I will ask Vice Chair Christine Thatcher to speak to the item.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I move that the board now receive the minutes of the October 2nd, 2023 Standing Committee and the Committee of the Whole closed session meeting.
That's a mover. Can I have a seconder for that motion? Trustee Arsenault. Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Now we will be moving on to item 12B of the recommendations from the Governance and Policy Committee, and I'm going to ask Trustee Tracy Brown to speak.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Moving to agenda item 12B, recommendations from the September 27th, 2023 Governance and Policy Committee meeting. The committee brings forward the following recommended actions. Timing of organisational meetings and clarification of other meeting dates in the bylaw as set out on pages 43 to 45 of the package. 2. July 10th, 2023 resolution, COVID-19 update, as set out on pages 46 to 48 of the package. Number 3, new privacy policy and rescission of regulation as set out on pages 49 to 101 of this package. And 4, new trustee criminal reference check, policy and rescission of regulation as set out on pages 102 and 110 of the package.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. We're going to ask that Council Cotter pardon? Did I say?
Yes.
Council Cutter, to look at the timing of the organizational meeting and clarification of the meeting dates. I'd ask you to speak on this item through the report and the two recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Edwards. So as pointed out by Trustee Brown, the report, the first report and recommendations found at pages 43 through 45 of your package. Essentially, it's necessary to amend the board's consolidated bylaws to address changes to the Municipal Act, which backed up the start of the trustee term, and also changes to the Education Act in terms of the annual organizational meeting. So the proposed changes that have been adopted by the Governance and Policy Committee and come to the board as a recommendation from that committee are set out at page 44 of the report. You see the track changes to section 3.2.1, just confirming the timing for the first organizational meeting. Section 3.1.1 backs up that date of that first meeting from December to November, in accordance with that annual anniversary of the first meeting. Section 4.2.4 deals with the fact that typically we don't have board meetings in the summertime, so that's just a cleanup there to address that, that ongoing practice, match the practice with the bylaws. And section 5.5.1 to again deal with the practice of no regular meetings in the summer, and the December meeting as well. So those are the changes to the bylaws. The board is also annually approves the meeting schedule. So there's a need for the board to approve a revised schedule, which would take the November 20th meeting and the December 4th meeting and flip them, so that the November 20 meeting will be the organizational meeting and the December 4th meeting becomes the regular board meeting. So those are the changes to the bylaw and the recommended changes to the organizational meeting. I'm in your hands, Chair Edwards, in terms of how you want to deal with those amended sections. We could do it section by section, and I can sort of walk through those individually if you wish.
Thank you, Councillor Cotter. And at this point in time, I just want to ask if there's any questions with regards to the amendments, proposed changes to the bylaws. Seeing none. Okay, so as I said, if I can, we can deal with all the changes to the consolidated bylaws, unless somebody wishes to do them section by section. I'm suggesting that we do all of them together, look at them all together. The motion, again, can be found in your package. The changes are set out on pages 43 to 45. So the first motion, if I don't see any opposition to dealing with all the changes in one, as far as the changes to the consolidated bylaws. I don't see any opposition to that. So I'm going to ask that the Board of Trustees put a motion forward to adopt the amendments to sections 3.11, 3.21, 4.24, and 5.51 of the consolidated bylaws as set out in the report. Let's have a mover and a seconder. Trustee Brown?
Thank you. Am I moving? Yes, I would move that motion.
Thank you. And a seconder? Trustee Arsenault. Any comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. May I have a second motion then to revise the meeting schedule, the board's meeting schedule, to designate November 20th, basically becomes the organization meeting, and December 4th becomes the regular meeting. As Councillor Clotter said, we're flipping those two meetings. So can I have a mover and a seconder? Trustee Thatcher?
I'll move that motion.
Trustee Brown, you're seconding it? Thank you. Sorry, any comments or questions on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item 12B, 12B2, which is the July 10th, 2023 resolution, COVID-19 update. There is, the recommendations can be found on page 47 of our agenda. Just let me pull it. Can I have a mover as far as to move the recommendation found on page, 47 of the agenda? You, Trustee Brown? Could you read the motion too, please? Do you want me to read it? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, I move that the Board of Trustees rescind the January 5th, 2022 resolution of the Board, which provided as follows: that the Director of Education and or her designates takes all reasonable steps to publicly report data to the extent it is available on confirmed and presumed cases in DDSB schools, that the DDSB ensure families and staff have a mechanism for self-reporting for those who have access to tests, that the Board provides information on school and class closures and unusual rates of absenteeism in school communities, and should the government alter its direction on the collection of this data, the Board will revisit its position.
Okay, Trustee Brown moves that. I may have a seconder. Trustee Oldfield. Any questions about that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Moving on to the next item in the Governance Committee recommendations, the new privacy policy and rescission of the regulation. Again, that information can be found on page 57 of your agenda. And I'll have asked Trustee Brown to make the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And through you, Chair, I move that the Board of Trustees rescind the privacy regulation and privacy policy and adopt the new privacy policy attached as Appendix B. And that's on page 52.
And I think that we could probably do the policy as well, so we can add that and add that to the second if people are willing, or do we want to do it separately? I'm just looking.
If trustees there should all be voting. The only one that
Just 1 second. Okay, so on page 52, it's that the Board rescind the privacy regulation, the privacy policy, and adopt the new privacy policy attached in Appendix B is the motion. Okay, we're going to do them separately. So I'll have a seconder. Trustee Morton, any questions on that motion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. And so the last item is around the new trustee criminal reference checks policy and rescission of the regulation. Again, those recommendations can be found on page 103 of your agenda package. Trustee Brown.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I move that the Board of Trustees rescind the trustee criminal reference check regulation and replace the policy with the new draft policy as noted in Appendix B. And you'll find that on page 103.
So I have a motion on the floor. May I have a seconder? Trustee Morton. Any questions on those changes and on the new draft policy? I'm seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Now we will be moving on to the consideration of the Integrity Commissioner findings. I'm going to pass it on to Council Cotter just to go through the process for trustees. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Edwards. The board has before it a report from the Integrity Commissioner dated October 5, 2023. Under the board's bylaws, the report comes to the public meeting of the board for consideration. The board is to consider the findings in the report and make its own determination as to whether Trustee Stone has breached the Code of Conduct. If there is a finding of breach by the Board of Trustees, then the Board of Trustees must then move on to consider whether what the appropriate sanction would be. There are only 3 available options for the Board of Trustees: censure the member, and or bar the member from attending all or part of a meeting of the board or a meeting of the committee of the board, and or bar the member from sitting on one or more committees of the board for a period of time specified by the board. If there is a finding of breach by the Board of Trustees, written notice must be provided to Trustee Stone and an opportunity for written submissions, and the board would then, if written submissions are received, the board would then return and reconsider any findings of breach and any sanctions made by the board. The Integrity Commissioner's findings are summarized at page 3 of my report, and the recommendations for sanction are summarized there as well in section 5. And in section 6, I've laid out the determinations the board must make. The first determination is whether Trustee Stone, by virtue of the social media activity referenced in the report, breached the Code of Conduct. And the second determination is if the board, and only if the board finds breach, then the appropriate sanction based on those 3 available sanctions to which I've already made reference. Subject to any questions you may have, that's a summary of the process, and as I say, the report is before you. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said, we have the report and its findings from the Integrity Commissioner in front of us. It is up to the board to make the determination of whether there has been a breach, and then if there has been a breach found, then we will deal with censures. I will ask Trustee Oldfield wishes to speak first. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Council Cotter spoke about the report, and at page 10, the Integrity Commissioner set out his analysis. And I am going to go through a bit of this because I think it's important that people watching this meeting understand exactly what it is that we're talking about here, because and what we have to consider. So in the Integrity Commissioner's analysis, it says, in my view, Trustee Stone contravened the Code of Conduct by posting the impunged tweets and retweets cited in the report. It's unfortunate that I'm again faced with a case of Trustee Stone's irresponsible social media use. I note that this is not my office's first or even second investigation into similar conduct by Trustee Stone. Trustee Stone occupies a privileged position at the table excuse me, where local education policy is established. She no doubt understands perfectly well that this role comes with significant social responsibility. Her public statements about public education matters will likely and reasonably be interpreted by members of the community as information pertaining to the DDSB. When Trustee Stone tweets about teachers, directors of education, and staff, it can be reasonably inferred to include DDSB teachers, the DDSB's Director of Education, and other DDSB staff. When a trustee tweets about education policies and practices, it's reasonably assumed to be about their own board's policies and practices. To put it plainly, what a trustee communicates publicly reflects back on the board. Given this reality and the history of previous substantiated complaints against her over the conduct which treads similar ground, it is astonishing that Trustee Stone continues to be so reckless on social media. And I'm not going to read the whole analysis, but I think that highlights pretty well the fact that this is not the first time that we've had to be in this situation, that it is astonishing. I agree with the Integrity Commissioner. And then on page 11 at the bottom, he says, for these reasons, I find that Trustee Stone contravenes sections 6.1, 6.3, 6.4, 6.8, 6.11, and 6.44 of the code, and I recommend the board also make such a finding. So for these reasons, I so move that Trustee Stone breach the code of conduct, specifically sections 6.1, 6.3, 6.4, 6.8, 6.11, and 6.44, when she posted the tweets and retweets set out in this report.
I have a motion on the floor. May I have a seconder for discussion? A seconder before this discussion? Trustee Thatcher? Okay, now I'll move on to
Sorry, Chair, sorry. I'd like a recorded vote, please.
Pardon?
A recorded vote?
Okay, we'll go to that, and now I'm at the point where I'm asking people to speak to the motion. I'll thank Student Trustee Ben Cameron.
Thank you, Chair. I'm disappointed that we are here again, as the Integrity Commissioner noted, where Trustee Stone continues to flagrantly violate the code over and over. I'm not sure why Trustee Stone continues her scourge against 2S LGBTQIA people, and I don't know why she continues to violate the code. But I do know that we have to apply the code. And if Trustee Stone decides to continue violating the code, so be it. We must do our job and uphold it. Because I'm tired of this. I don't want to be here talking about Trustee Stone's inappropriate behavior that puts 2S LGBTQIA students at risk, behavior that questions and erases the existence of trans and queer people, behavior that is unbecoming of a trustee. She has shown no willingness to learn or correct her behavior or even engage with the truth. Instead, she spends her time picking on kids to further her ideological beliefs and personal political agenda. I think it's clear from the report that Trustee Stone has violated the sections in the motion, and so I would ask all of my colleagues to support a finding of breach today. And I encourage everyone to show a clear sign of support against hate and bigotry and the extreme vitriol that Trustee Stone has propagated online. Thank you.
Thank you, Student Trustee Ben Cameron. Sorry, Trustee, I can't see. No? Trustee Cunningham.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Although some of us may have different views on the rights of transgender students versus the rights of their parents, I can't imagine that any of us have different views when it comes to spreading misinformation. The misinformation shared in Trustee Stone's tweets insisting on comparing transgender people to animals is so outrageous that it would be ridiculous under any circumstances other than this one. It is hard to comprehend that anyone would believe this, but when it comes from a source like a trustee who should be a reliable source for credible information, it's harder for people to disregard. This makes our board look bad, it makes us look unprofessional, and it makes us look like an unsafe space for students and staff. For these reasons, among several others, I recommend that we accept Trustee Oldfield's recommendation and find that Trustee Stone breached the code of conduct. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have Vice Chair Christine Thatcher?
Thank you, Chair. For the following reasons, I support Trustee Oldfield's motion. According to the report, the Integrity Commissioner report, Trustee Stone occupies a privileged position with significant social responsibility. What a trustee communicates publicly reflects back on the board. Also, tweets such as these are seen as misinformation and scaremongering. How could this serve the Durham District School Board and the stakeholders? And finally, these actions represent a failure on part of this trustee to inspire public confidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Morton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Our words and our actions speak volumes. We need to be constantly cognizant of the repercussions of our words and our deeds. Our focus must always be the safety and well-being of each and every one of our students. And yes, I am supporting the motion put forward by Trustee Oldfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Morton. Any other comments? I see none. Okay, therefore, I call it's a recorded vote. The vote will be called, each name of the trustees will be called out alphabetically with the chair last. And it was both a binding and non-binding vote, so there's also the student trustee. Thank you.
Through the chair, I'll begin with Trustee Arsenault.
Abstain.
Trustee Brown.
In favor.
Trustee Cunningham.
In favor.
Trustee Linton. Okay. Trustee Miller.
In favor.
Trustee Morton.
In favor.
Trustee Oldfield.
In favor.
Trustee Pinillo.
In favor.
Trustee Thatcher.
In favor.
Trustee Thompson.
In favor.
Chair Edwards.
In favor.
Through the chair, I will now call the student trustee non-binding vote. Student trustee Ben Cameron.
In favor.
Student trustee Kayla Hoare.
In favor.
And student trustee Neha Kasoju.
In favor.
Through the chair, we have 9 yeses, or 9 in favor, 1 absent, and 1 abstain, and 3 student trustee in favor.
Thank you. That motion carries. Now that there's been determined that there is a breach, we now must, our next step to do is actually to deal with sanctions. As you've seen in the report, there's the three possible options as far as sanctions is concerned. There's the board censure of Trustee Stone, the recommended, the barring from attending one board meeting, or the barring from sitting on committees of the board for a duration determined by the board. Trustees have the option of one or all of these recommended sanctions. Student Trustee Ben Cameron.
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering, when looking at sanctions, we have a sanction that is currently happening, which expires on March 31st of 2024. So I'm wondering if any motion that addresses committee attendance, whether it would be prudent to start as of today's date or as of March 31st, 2024.
Councillor Cotter.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Edwards. So the your question had embedded in it the time frame, I think, Student Trustee Cameron, which is that the current sanction for Trustee Stone is to be barred from sitting on one or more committees, from all the committees of the board, until March 31st, 2024. The Education Act provides that when the board bars a member from sitting on one or more committees, it says for the period of time specified by the board. So that can start at any time and finish at any time. So I leave it to the good judgment of the board as to when that is, but I think certainly the Education Act allows a later start date than now.
Student Trustee Cameron, does that answer?
Yes, it does. And I would like to then suggest a motion for the Board of Trustees to consider that the Board of Trustees, A, censure Trustee Stone, B, bar Trustee Stone from attending all of the board meeting of December 4th, 2023, and bar Trustee Stone from sitting on all committees of the board for the period starting April 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2024.
Thank you, Student Trustee Cameron. I'll ask Trustee Oldfield.
I so move Trustee Cameron's motion.
So that motion is moved by Trustee Oldfield. I need a seconder, please. Trustee Brown. Any comments about the motion on the floor? Trustee Miller.
I need a repeat of the motion, please.
Okay. Trustee Oldfield, do you have that written down? Do you know the motion? Or Trustee Cameron? Okay, Trustee Oldfield, go ahead.
Recording Secretary Jillian Venning has placed it on the screen so that it's available to read.
Thank you. Forgot that that's happening. Okay, so the motion is that the Board of Trustees censure Trustee Stone, bar Trustee Stone from attending all of the board meetings of December 4th, 2023, and bar Trustee Stone from sitting on all committees of the board for the period starting April 1st, 2024 and ending December 31st, 2024. So that is the motion that is on the table. Any comments? Student Trustee Ben Cameron.
Thank you, Chair. So just speaking about timeline, in effect what this does is extend Trustee Stone's sanction by 7 months that the board sits. Last time we had put in a period of 6 months. So I think that 7 months is proportional to the behavior that we had done as well, in accordance with principles of progressive discipline and understanding that consequences can get more severe as behavior repeats.
Trustee Oldfield.
Yeah, I was just going to say something similar to Trustee Cameron, that I think it's a reasonable, I think it's more than reasonable, actually. If I could think of, if there was something more that we could do under the Education Act, I would be putting that forward as a motion. But I think it is incredibly reasonable of us to only increase it by 1 month. And it is, it seems to be in keeping with progressive discipline, for lack of a better word. And I think it has to be something that hopefully at some point that has an impact, so that Trustee Stone actually takes it seriously, so that we're not here again doing the same thing in a next board meeting or early into the next year.
Thank you, Trustee Oldfield. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak before I pass the mic over to Student Trustee Ben Cameron? Trustee Cunningham.
I'd like to call for a recorded vote on this, please.
Thank you. It's a recorded vote that has been called on that. Trustee Miller.
My consideration regarding these sanctions is I would like to present the fact that Trustee Stone is still an elected member of this board. And there are presently, we have made a decision regarding the breach. However, noting that she is still an elected member of this board, there are considerations in my mind about the duties that which she holds and her role in fulfilling some of those obligatory duties. I just wanted to consider the fact that not being able to be a part of some of her role duties does impact the whole board, where other members may have to double their duties to fulfill some of those roles. So that is also just a point of consideration I wanted to clarify.
That indeed, Trustee Miller is correct in that, if any, she does currently sit. We do have alternates on those committees, where those alternates must fill in those duties during that time. And although she has been the proposed sanctions. Prohibits her to attend committee meetings. She is still allowed to attend board meetings other than the first one that is in December, but she is still allowed to attend the meetings. She still receives all the public material provided. She can still provide input, provide comments on all those materials. Okay, I'm just making sure. Trustee Pinello, before I go to the people that have already spoken. Trustee Pinello?
Thank you, Chair. And through you, I just want to thank Trustee Miller for, I guess I'd say her concern, even if it wasn't directly related to just Oshawa trustees. I can speak for myself and say I do appreciate it. I do want to emphasize, though, just because other trustees won't necessarily receive the same correspondence for Oshawa that perhaps Trustee Oldfield and I do, that people who are DDSB students, staff, and families in Oshawa are very hurt and are feeling this twofold, seeing as one of their 3 trustees seems to continuously attack, to put lightly, particular communities, including the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. And so while I certainly appreciate that we might have to take on additional duties, I will gladly do so in order to ensure that there is accountability for when one breaches not only our code of conduct, but potentially also our Ontario Human Rights Code. And so when it comes to that representation, I believe all of our municipalities, and especially Oshawa in our case, deserve the highest quality and form of representation, of authenticity, of kindness, of care, and the highest standard of professionalism. And that has not been demonstrated. And so I am supportive of the proposed, all that has been proposed, and would also emphasize that it is better to, in this case, for us to have good representation that abides by the code of conduct and everything we as trustees are supposed to stand for than it is to allow bad behavior for the sake of a lower workload. And while I know that wasn't Trustee Miller's intention, I do just want to clarify that for those watching at home who are from my city. So thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to again go to the people that haven't spoke first. So I'm on this particular motion at this point in time. So I'm going to Vice Chair Thatcher. Oops.
Thank you, Chair. Trustees are responsible for policy development. They do not implement policy, but they do monitor policy and can make necessary changes at the will of the board. I just want to remind that several things that came out of this report were as follows, that there is always room for respectful discussion about the best policy choices to meet the needs of the Durham District School Board students and families, and also that there's reasonable latitude for trustees to bring forth opinions in good faith through policy development processes and open discussions of the board. I would be open to that.
Thank you, Trustee Thatcher. Okay, so I'm going, Student Trustee Ben Cameron was first. Oh, I'm going to go to the speakers. You put your speaker on, then I'll go to you, Trustee Morton, okay?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to echo the comments of my colleagues, Trustee Pinello and Trustee Thatcher, and also ask that the motion be divided into 3 parts, A, B, and C. Thank you.
So we're going to have 3 recorded votes on A, B, and C, and not all one motion. Okay, thank you. Trustee Morton, and then Trustee Oldfield.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Edwards. I just want to reiterate something that I find in the report. It says the Durham District School Board is committed to supporting safe, welcoming, and inclusive environments for all students and all staff. That's extremely important. Something else that jumps out to me, it says that because of the role that we are in, we need to inspire confidence in the abilities and the integrity of the board. We need to uphold the dignity of our office. Those things are really important. Thank you.
Trustee Oldfield, and just a reminder, that was a suggestion by Student Trustee Ben Cameron that I still need, if you wish, as the board as a whole, wishes to divide the 3 sanctions, a trustee has to put that forward, just which is a recommendation from Student Trustee as far as that's concerned. Okay, thank you. Trustee Oldfield.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I think Trustee Miller raised a good point around the fact that Trustee Stone is an elected trustee. And it is unfortunate for the residents of Oshawa that she's making decisions that are limiting her ability to be an effective trustee. But it is not on us. At any time, Trustee Stone could change her behavior and could be a full participant of this board. At any time, she could do that. So, and it is not on us to allow poor behavior because it's unfortunate. We have to, as many people around this table have said, we have to uphold the Human Rights Code, the Education Act, and our own code of conduct. That's our requirement. That's what we're obligated to do. And there is no out for that.
Thank you. Trustee Brown.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Just a recommendation, I would prefer to keep the motion as is and not split it into 3. I think it reads well as it is, so I'm not sure. I know this motion has already been moved, so I would prefer not to split this into three. Thank you.
Trustee Thatcher.
Thank you, Chair. I believe that I actually concur with Trustee Brown. If we had any necessary changes, they would come forward as an amendment to any one of those sections, and we haven't seen that. And so if that then doesn't happen, I would suggest that we keep that as just one motion and not divide into three parts. Happy to go ahead with the recorded vote, but just one, please. Just one.
I see no more speakers on the list, so
I had my hand up.
Sorry. Oh, Trustee Miller, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I would just like, for the motion put forward for all three to be together, I would just like a little bit more rationale. Initially, I do agree with having them separate, since there are different extensions, there are different things there that to consider. So I just wanted, if for those that had, or anyone that proposed or did agree with them individually, if I could have some more rationale before I make a decision.
Sorry, just to clarify, I didn't quite get that you want rationale for dividing before you make that decision, or you would put, because so far...
Yes. I think it was student trustee Ben Cameron that proposed them to be divided, and I would like further clarification on that. Thank you.
I'm not thinking, thank you. Student trustee Ben Cameron, if you could give your rationale on why you would want the censures divided. Much appreciated. Student trustee Cameron.
Thank you, Chair. I would add two things. I think each one of them should be dealt separately, just because it kind of fits nicely into, you know, we apply this sanction, and this sanction. As well, I would add that any trustee has the ability to unilaterally tell the chair to deal with them separately. So that's, yeah.
And I do a question to divide is only one trustee. It's not a debatable item, and I understand that, but it has to come from a trustee around the table, student trustee Cameron. So, Trustee Miller, does that answer your question?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Okay, so I haven't had a motion to divide from the trustees around the table, so therefore and I see no more speakers on the list. So therefore, I'm going to call the recorded vote with the binding and then the non-binding afterwards. And thank you, through the secretary.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll begin with the trustee vote. Trustee Arsenault.
Abstain.
Trustee Brown.
In favor.
Trustee Cunningham.
In favor.
Trustee Linton. Still not. Trustee Miller.
Abstain.
Trustee Morton.
In favor.
Trustee Oldfield.
In favor.
Trustee Pinillo.
In favor, my apologies.
Trustee Thatcher.
In favor.
Trustee Thompson.
In favor.
Chair Edwards.
In favor.
Through the chair, I will now call the student trustee non-binding vote. Student trustee Cameron.
In favor.
Student trustee Hoare.
In favor.
And student trustee Kasoju.
In favor.
So we have 8 trustee in favor, 1 trustee absent, 2 trustee abstentions, and 3 student trustees in favor.
That motion carries. Thank you, trustees. The next step, as far as this is concerned, is that a sanction has been found, a breach has been found, the sanctions have been found. There is a period of time where Trustee Stone is allowed to basically come back with a written statement regarding the findings and the sanctions. Thank you. Moving on to item 13, information items, which is the first is the minutes of the Governance and Policy Committee report. Trustee Brown.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Edwards. I am also bringing forward agenda item 13A for information, the May 24th, 2023 Governance and Policy Committee meeting minutes. And that concludes my report to the board.
Thank you, Trustee Brown. Any questions of Trustee Brown? Moving on to the Audit Committee meeting summary. Actually, the next three items are with Associate Director Wright, but the Audit Committee meeting summary we'll deal with first. Thank you, Associate Director Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Included in this report is a summary of the actions taken at the Public Audit Committee meeting held on September 20th, 2023. That summary is included in section 4 of the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions for you. Thank you.
Any questions from trustees on the summary report? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to the annual report, the Audit Committee's annual report. Associate Director Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are two reports. This first one is a report to the Board of Trustees. Ontario Regulation 36110 requires that an annual report be presented to the Board of Trustees, highlighting the information that is contained in Appendix A to the report in front of you, including membership, attendance at meetings, and a summary of the work performed. This information is for the benefit of the board. It is not shared directly with the Ministry of Education. And if there are any questions about anything in the report, happy to try and answer through you. Thanks.
Any questions on the annual report of the Board of Trustees? Looking online, seeing none. Moving on then to item D is the report to the Ministry of Education, the Audit Committee report. Thank you. Associate Director Wright.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. In addition to the requirement in the previous report, Ontario Regulation 36110 also requires an annual report be presented to the Ministry of Education, outlining the information included in Appendix A to your report, including a summary of the audit work previously performed and the audit work planned for the coming year. If there's any questions about anything in this report, again, happy to answer through you. Thanks.
Any questions on the annual report to the Ministry of Education? Seeing none, and thank you for your reports, Associate Director David Wright. The next item is the OPSPA report. I'm asking Trustee Cunningham to speak on the OPSPA report. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. OPSPA is going to be having an advocacy day at Queen's Park where trustees who sit on the board of directors will have an opportunity to discuss challenges and successes in our board with local MPPs. We're very excited to participate in this and have these kind of discussions that we hope will continue over time. Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Cunningham. Any questions for Trustee Cunningham on the OPSPA report? Seeing none, I believe the next item is just the dates of significance. The trustees can see their dates of significance that are listed on pages 132 to 133. And as the agenda has been concluded, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.